Okay, now, why would you go see the Amish in Ethridge during the spring of the year? The spring of the year is great. Typically, about the end of February, beginning of March, it becomes windy, but in the middle of the day, it could be 80 degrees. This is perfect for if you want to go in and see some of the cabbages. This is where some of the onions, like the green onions, not the little small yard ones, the ones that kind of have a bit of a bulb, and some of the winter greens that's going to come over. This is going to be broccoli, some asparagus, all of that sort of thing. It's going to push its way into April from March. Okay. Also, at the end of March, you'll start to see a few strawberries. It's typically an April thing into May, but we have seen them as early as the last week of March. So if this gives you an indication of springtime, I want to kind of start around the end of February, beginning of March is kind of where we see the more spring-like weather. But at least since March is usually about the second or third weekend or week in March, we typically see spring called, that season from about that time on, as far as the first day of spring. After you do get into April and May, this is where, like I mentioned before, all of your broccoli, all of your cauliflower, all of your cabbages, things like this is going to be coming up. The green onions, maybe even the start towards the end of some garlic, So you're going to find a lot of those kind of winter vegetables still in there. So that gives you some indication on what you could be finding produce-wise. Since it's kind of at the end of the winter, you can find absolutely the best woodworking and leatherworking. The guys have been busy all winter. Since nothing is growing, a lot of times the people who plant things will take up wood and leather works during the winter to kind of give them something to do. The Amish are not workaholics. They're more like busybodies. They're actually kind of condemned a little bit if you work all the time and have no time for children or reading or relaxation whatsoever. So they'd rather have you be a busybody that just works a little bit for a lengthy point of time than they would be just somebody has to, get everything done all the time, because that usually leads to a place where there's nothing to do, and they don't like that. So you'll find them kind of being busy. And since spring is kind of between the summer and the winter, they usually have this zone where they can do transplants and do a little bit of greenhouse maintenance. They'll set it all up for getting those plants ready to be planted, or a lot of times they will sell them. So they'll usually have way more than they need. They'll have their greenhouse, if they have a greenhouse, all laid out to where they can they understand kind of what's going to go on that year. And they kind of have a sense of, since last year they had so much and so much left over, it's one of their ways to kind of reform their notes and decide on what they were going to do that next year. This is also why it's almost impossible to have a good map. Because the same man that says, I'm going to have a whole field of candied onions, might not have any onions, because onions didn't do good for the year before. So if I make a static map about who has onions, the next year might not be true. And it's like, well, why didn't you do what you said? I'm Amish. I don't have to listen to you. And it's so true, isn't it? So in the springtime is usually when you're going to have the annual sale of the Plowboy Produce Auctions furniture sale. So this is a one-time-a-year event where they're going to really push a lot of different furniture to be sold at that furniture auction. Not all of them will. There's certain Amish woodworkers that stay busy all year round because they're really good at their craft. They're good at what they do, and they're going to do it all year long, and they probably don't have enough overflow to really put into the auction. So don't think it's a good representation of all of them. It just happens to be that the persons that usually don't have a lot of woodworking have been working all year to try to put stuff in this auction. So that's kind of what it is, all right? So the spring is really good also for chickens. So if you're going to get a chicken coop, from some of the guys that have coops for sale, this is also going to be a great time to go call them up and say, if you want chickens in a coop or a tractor to put them in, this will be the time of year to get those chicks. Now, not only the Amish, but places like, I don't know, a few of them that are around that are English farms. For example, Taylor Family Farm, right up there in amongst all the Amish, have usually a pretty good amount of chicks that they will sell in a lot so that you can buy chicks so that summer you can have hopefully some eggs. You know what I mean? Once you get your chicks big enough and they become full-blown chickens and they start laying eggs, you'll have lots of eggs. So better have a good omelet or souffle or some kind of egg-related dish that you want to put with some of those Amish vegetables. So that's a good other thing you can do for spring. If you want anything made that year, it's a good way to kind of run around while it's not all that hot and talk to your Amish persons to see if you want, say for example, a cedar glider made, or you want a play set, for children, all that sort of thing, because they get kind of filled up throughout the year, and things like hay season and vegetables and just different things come up throughout the year. It sometimes pushes your date off a month or two. So if somebody said, hey, it'll be ready by September, not an agreement, but it's probably going to be October, November before they'll ever get it to you. That is not uncommon. It's actually kind of the norm. Your Amish friend is probably being a little bit enthusiastic about giving you a date. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. Be sure to get their address. Please do not forget to get their address, because what happens, you order something for somebody, you'd love to send them a letter, you forgot where it is, and what do you tell me? Can you go see the man that makes cedar chairs? He lives in a white house with a red workshop. Let me guess, next to some cows, or something like that. His neighbor does upholstery. Oh, come on. Now there's only 127 that fit that description. So if you don't mind, write down the exact name and address of the people that you do business with that you might want to do something else. It's just ask the person, whoever's selling you, what your name and address is. You could just write it down. I always say you're going to see my hand disappear. There we go. You can, if you took the course, you already know this. So, but you can keep a pocket edition, and if you have a Guayabera, which is what I recommend you to wear, it just goes in your pocket. So whenever you see your Amish friend and you pop out your thing, flip it open, and he sees that you wrote things in handwriting, that goes a long way for an Amish person, because that's how they do things, is by the mail. They don't have email. They have letter mail with a stamp. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good thing to do whenever you do see your Amish friends that you'd like to get something from in the future, or would like to call and ask about how far out are you. You can send a letter back and forth and have that correspondence, all that sort of thing. Now, also, a lot of events start happening throughout the year. So if you're going to come in from spring into the summer, this would be a good time to kind of parlay your vacation up with your Amish adventure with some other point of interest, or maybe even an event. So this would be a good time to kind of look at the roster that we kind of have. We'll kind of keep everybody up to date on events that are going to happen throughout the year, all that sort of thing. So that's going to give you an indication on what you would like to see, possibly whenever you're here during the spring, all that sort of stuff. So if anything else, this is how we see coming to see the Amish in Ethridge during the springtime. This has been Mike with the Amish of Ethridge, and hopefully I'll see you in another video just like this one. Now, if you don't mind, go right under here and click that link. That'll take you back to our course page. It's the only way I make money. And we have a course specifically to how to visit the Amish here in Ethridge, where I tell you everything. Anyway, this has been Mike, and hopefully I'll see you in another video just like this one.